Lewis French. Welcome, Lewis.
Thanks, mate. Thanks.
So, Lewis is a 24-year-old photographer from Perth, Western Australia. He found his love for photography at a young age during a family holiday around both the North and South Islands of New Zealand, where he continued to photograph landscape and surf upon his return to the northern suburbs of Perth. This quickly led to shooting fashion, food, and events for local businesses in Perth. He was fortunate enough to have shot his first wedding at the age of 19, which was the beginning of many in the years to follow as he began a new branch of his business in the wedding industry, shooting over 25 weddings in 2023. COVID pushed him to move to the Margaret River region to escape the chaos, where he picked up a handful of clients such as Creatures of Leisure, Credaro Winery, Shelter Brewing Co., and Meelup Farmhouse. He wanted to chase bigger things and see what was possible, so he took an internship position under Ian and Erick Regnard at the Friday Studio in Perth to hone his craft and learn lighting inside and out. After 12 months with the brothers at Fridays, he went back to his country of birth and spent 4 months in London working as a lighting technician on fashion and advertising jobs for photographers such as Oliver Hadlee Pearch, Maya Skelton, Tom Craig, and Emma Tempest. He now calls London home and continues to assist other high profile photographers in Europe and hopes to use his experience as a platform to project his career and be agency represented as a fashion and lifestyle photographer. Cool. So, yeah, like I feel like it was quite quick, that jump from um, maybe after that internship that you did to moving to London. Did you feel like you progressed quite quickly? Like as a, because I mean, you're only 24, which is quite, I think it's pretty young to be where you're at, I guess, like assisting quite big clients in London and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah, I definitely feel, well, I definitely am the youngest on set over here, in the position that I'm in. So yeah, it was a jump. I learnt a lot under the boys at Friday's studio, Ian and Erick. I had access to, yeah, top end equipment in Perth, which I would use to test lights, test different setups, and just kind of hone my craft and learn lighting. So I did that. But yeah, it was a big last year. I did 4 months here as a bit of a test, just to see see what it's like, see if I enjoyed it and stuff. And it's definitely was a big step. Just the size of the jobs, you feel like a very very small fish in a big sea. Yeah, but it was great. I mean, that's how you learn, right? You get out of your comfort zone, and you push yourself into those uncomfortable positions. So yeah, it was great.
and so you learned, you were just kind of shooting on family holidays and that sort of thing. You were mostly doing surf photography. Is that where you started out?
Yeah, correct. So I went on that family holiday, and then obviously surfing myself, having friends around me surf. I guess natural thing for me becoming a photographer was to shoot what I love and shoot what I enjoy, and that was surfing at the time. I still love surfing a lot, and I still, yeah, shoot it here and there when I'm back down in Margaret River. But yeah, that's how I started shooting surf, shooting some landscapes. That was my entry into knowing my way around a camera, and how certain things worked. And then from there, it was a natural progression. I met a friend of mine called Tom Davidson, shot by Tom. You may have heard of his name in Perth. He was really helpful in bringing me on, teaching me some client-based stuff. So I got to learn how to deal with clients, shoot events, shoot some food stuff, hospitality, and that's kind of was my gateway into getting paid, and yeah, shooting in that sort of industry in Perth.
And did you start to shoot fashion or maybe some portraiture around that time as well, or were you mostly shooting just events and surfing?
Yeah, so I shot a bit of fashion related stuff, fashion lifestyle. I actually worked with a brand called Eat Your Water. They're a Newcastle based clothing brand over on the East Coast. I started working with them from quite a young age, from maybe 19 ish, maybe a little bit younger. Um, and Liam, the owner of Eat Your Water, has done incredibly well now, and the brand is absolutely thriving over there and in the West. But we were at similar stages. We were both young. He was building his business. I was shooting. So we began to work together. And that was the fashion side of things that I shot from, I guess, early days.
Yeah, so I guess that was the start of it. And then did you continue to work with brands up until 2023? Like other surf brands? I think you shot Creatures of Leisure. Was that more fashion or was that sort of more product?
Yeah,
Or
so I've shot for Creatures, a lot of their e-com stuff. So you'll find on their website all their products are shot by me in studio. So it's e-com based stuff, but it's quite technical because of the nature of the products. We have shot some lifestyle stuff out in the field down there as well in Margaret River. So yeah, that was really cool. It was good to shoot again, back to the surf stuff, but for quite a large client. And yeah, just be doing that again. And then yeah, I have shot some other fashion stuff for a couple of brands in Perth, like Sarah Fox, and a couple of others, just boutiques and things like that. But nothing on the scale. Fashion in Perth isn't fashion overseas in London. I mean, fashion here is just a whole different level in terms of everything. So yeah, it's been a jump, but it's been good. Obviously, I'm not shooting here. I've put the camera down, and I've picked up my assisting kit. But yeah, it's great.
and how are you kind of getting those jobs? Like, was it through word of mouth mostly, or was it just sharing your work on Instagram? Were you messaging people? Were you reaching out to people? How did it sort of work out for you?
Um, the assisting or the shooting?
The shoots before you came to London, you're working with quite a few
Yeah,
brands.
so all about who you know, really. All about who you know. I can't stress enough how important it is to network, go the extra mile to meet people, make a good first impression, and try and form some sort of connection, whether that's on a professional or a personal level. Um, so I met some of the guys through Creatures in Dunsborough. I mean, it's a small town. So we met actually through. So I picked up Shelter Brewing Co. as a client, had them on a retainer through a mutual friend, and then they held an event one night premiering the. It was a surf movie. I can't exactly remember what it was in Bustleton, but the Creatures guys were there that night, so I was introduced, and that's how I was formed that connection, and yeah, one thing led to another. So I was fortunate enough to shoot for them the last couple of years, and I think I will be flying back to shoot all their ecom stuff again in January for the next year.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's just building those connections, that network. I mean, there is a bit of luck involved. Having them there that night at that event, there's always going to be a bit of luck, but you've also got to make your own luck and put yourself out there to try and have those conversations and make those connections, and also follow up. Follow-ups are always really important.
Yeah, like as a photographer myself, I always had in my mind, I thought it was all about, portfolio and maybe creativity. And I think that is a big part of photography. But I think at the end of the day, just talking to a lot of other photographers, what's sort of more important is connection, and then maybe sort of like that word of mouth sort of thing. Like I think it is, as you were saying, like it's who you know is. I think that's even the most important thing. Like have a portfolio and that sort of thing, but build connections as well. Put yourself out there.
Definitely, definitely, yeah. Of course, you need to have a portfolio. You need to be able to be good at your job, and shoot things that meet briefs and shoot things that clients are expecting and wanting. Um, and also having, as much as shooting good work, you need to be able to deal with clients and manage people on set. Like that's and on jobs, that's just as important, and communication. But yeah, then that leads to word of mouth, and then that leads to more networking and more relationship building. So it's there's multi-layered. It isn't just a matter of shooting incredible work and everyone just coming to your feet wanting you to shoot for them, because if you can't communicate well or deal with people, they're not going to want you on set. And it's the same that goes here for assisting, which I've learned. You People book you not just because you're a good assistant and you know what you're doing, but also the person that you are on set. People don't want people that are stressful and cause chaos and are rude. It's just not. No matter how good you are, you just get blackballed, and yeah, people don't really want you on set if that's the case.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I think because as a photographer, you're dealing with people mostly. Like unless you're just purely e-commerce and you're just in a studio, but most of the time, especially in London, it requires communication with a lot of different people from a lot of different industries, and sometimes you're spending like days in the studio with them, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, very, very important.
And did you have fashion in the back of your mind? Like, because I think that's sort of where it seems to be like you're going. Did you have that in the back of your mind? Did you sort of plan ahead and did you have that as a goal, or it just sort of happened naturally that you started, entering into that industry?
Um, I've always been interested in fashion. I mean, fashion's a very broad area in photography, and being a fashion photographer doesn't just mean that you shoot big fashion campaigns for brands all the time, um, which I like. Whereas if you're a still life photographer or a wildlife photographer, you tend to shoot still life and wildlife. Whereas fashion, you can shoot editorial, you can shoot portraits for editorial purposes of actors, musicians, models. Then you can go and shoot fashion campaigns. Then you can shoot fashion weeks in Paris, New York, London. It's a big area which you can do multiple different things, which I like, and I always like doing things that are different. I don't like doing one thing all the time. So having variety is what kind of drew me to that, and I just find it a really interesting industry. Um, and you can create some really, really beautiful pictures with fashion, and you can get experimental with lighting, and there's so many amazing photographers out there in the fashion industry that are doing incredible things with lighting and just everything. It's mind blowing. So that for me was an area where I saw the ceiling was already very high, and yeah, it's there's room for pushing yourself more and more and more in fashion photography, because there are so many people doing so much incredible work out there.
And when you were in Perth, did you feel like you had a lot of support behind you as a photographer, or did you feel like maybe some of your friends? You said you had one friend that was sort of into creative stuff, but I guess he was quite young. Did you have a lot of other people sort of supporting you and pushing you, or did you find you had to sort of push yourself mostly, make your own, make it like sort of
Um, yeah, I didn't really feel I had that much support, other than obviously from friends and family, which is, I guess, natural. Perth is it was a funny place. My friends really weren't creatives, weren't in the creative industry. They were either on the mines or they were carpenters or electricians or plumbers. Um, or going to uni and doing corporate jobs. I mean, three of my best friends are now in real estate and finance, corporate finance. So very, very different to where I'm at. So the support, yeah, I guess it wasn't quite there like it is here. I mean, in London, I'm right in the thick of just a big boiling pot of creatives, and everyone's very similar. Um, so it's cool, man. Like there's a lot of support around here, which I didn't feel as much in Perth. But I guess that's just the way the industry is in Perth. It is a lot different. It's more content driven and quantity over quality. I feel sometimes. Um, But yeah, I mean, I did have support from Ian and Erick a lot during that internship and after. I mean, they've been mentors for me, which has been really nice. And Tom, shot by Tom as well. Like he's a good mate of mine, and we've always bounced off each other and helped each other out. So they were two connections I would say that have been supportive back in WA.
And how did you meet those people who supported you, like Tom or Ian and Eric? How were those connections made?
I was living down in Margaret River at the time, and my a friend of mine, Nick White, who runs the Pitch Industries podcast, he was the intern at Friday Studio for Ian and Eric, and um, they were in search of someone, and he put me forward for that to the boys. So yeah, I that's how I was introduced to Ian and Eric, and then Tom and I have known each other years going back from when I was 18, 19, growing up around Trigg, Scarborough, northern suburbs area. So we have some mutual friends, and yeah, we became good mates from an early age. So yeah.
And I guess what was it like doing that internship? So it was a whole year just interning and just learning
It
in
was.
Friday.
So yeah, it was unpaid. It was 3 days a week at Fridays in North Perth, which is, in my opinion, probably the best photo studio in Perth in terms of the equipment they have and just the space. It is really big, and um, you can you can do big jobs there. So I was studio assistant. So I might be cleaning some days after set. I might be making sure equipment was all organized in the container and everything was neat and tidy. Rental equipment was prepped for people taking out of the studio or when the studio is booked for jobs, making sure that the equipment was all ready for them to go that they had hired. But then and then doing work up in the office, doing my own work in spare time, which was editing or working on personal projects or prepping test shoots and learning lighting, trying to really wrap my head around all the different lighting. I mean, there is so much to learn. I'm still learning now, so it was good getting familiar with old pro photo equipment, and and learning lights as much as I could before I ventured out to try and assist more as a lighting tech. And then when jobs were being shot in Fridays, I can go and offer myself as a second or a third assistant. Obviously unpaid, but being in and around jobs to see how other photographers come in and light things and deal with clients. So, and then on top of that, also assisting Ian and Erick directly, being their first assistant when they had shoots either in the studio or away from the studio. So, yeah, there was multiple things, but it was yeah, super rewarding to see how things work.
And what was your sort of preconceived ideas about lighting, and how did that change when you sort of started learning at Fridays?
Mate, I thought it wasn't that hard, but my God.
Just light.
Yeah, just any advice would be, if anyone's looking to really go the next level, and whether you're going to be an assistant or you want to be like a top tier photographer, you need to understand lighting. And there is so much to learn, man. Like every job here I do in London, I'm learning something else.
Really? Wow.
Every single job, I think I'm pretty clued up now on how to light things, and I know my way around equipment, and yeah, but it just shocks me. I mean, I've just had 3 days this week on a big Fendi women's wear campaign in London, and I just learned a whole I've just written pages and notes
Really?
on
Wow.
stuff that I've just learned. So yeah, lighting is, I feel, a um, never ending study. You just can learn so much stuff. I mean, I've heard stories of lighting assistants and photographers over here that are just on another level in terms of lighting, just nerdy little quirky things that they do. So it's interesting. It's a science, right? Like it is a full science, and I just find that so interesting.
What are sort of some examples, if you could give like the listeners an idea of how intricate sort of lighting is? Is it the types of flashes? I guess, do they you normally have a brief and then they're like, I want this set up for like, and then you're trying to match it with the brief, or like what's your usual process? And then if you can, just give a brief idea of the intricacies of lighting.
Yeah, so over here obviously is very different to Perth. I've found, like, I haven't per the lighting in Perth, I've found, is very quite basic in studio. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on. There's a lot of adding light, adding an umbrella here, adding a reflector here, bouncing a light here. And out in, also, I must say that Perth or Western Australia, or even Australia in general, daylight is one of the hardest. Like shooting in Perth, if you can learn to shoot outside in Perth, the light is just so harsh and so hard compared to the European light on location. But
Yeah.
I mean, what I've learned, which is super important here, is adding light is just as important as blocking light. So light travels in straight lines, so you need to understand that. And if you put an umbrella up, you might want it to light one part of someone, but you need to block that spill, whether the spill's onto the backdrop, onto the bottom half of the subject, or whether that spill's coming back at camera. So we on set, we have just as much light shaping tools and flashes and modifiers as we do black cloth or flags or blackouts to block light coming in certain directions. So yeah, that's a little insight into, I guess, how technical it can get. It can sometimes look like a complete and utter mess. It just looks, if you walk onto some jobs, you're like, what the hell's going on? But it's all for a reason. And adding one light at a time, So start small, don't jump in and just put 3 or 4 flashes up and fire them off all at once, because you're just not going to have any idea what each of them are doing and what's just bouncing off of what. And so you need to build up slowly. And yeah, normally we might get it depends. I mean, sometimes you get the photographer will send through lighting briefs, or we'll get a set of reference images for lighting for the job. Photographer sometimes will or most of the time will have a pretty good understanding of light, so we'll send the first assistant a diagram or a brief on what they think will be the diagram or the lighting setup, and then when we're on set, we'll alter that and make the changes we need to.
So how does it? Because in Perth, right, or in the typical shoot is you don't really have a creative director. If somebody books a photographer and the photographer's sort of making all the decisions, but how does it work with in London, where you sometimes have like 3 assistants? Is there, maybe there's a creative director and then he's consulting with the photographer. The photographer does he create does he build like a setup sort of in 2D before the shoot of what he wants to do, and then he'll send it to the first assistant, and then maybe the second and third will just fix it up a bit? Is that normally how it works, or?
So basically, yeah, Perth. In WA, I find photographer will have to do so many different things. Like you might have one assistant on set. I mean, I haven't worked on any jobs in Perth or many actually, maybe 1 or 2, where there's been 2 lighting assistants on a job. But here, what tends to happen, obviously it's all dependent, right? So editorial is a lot smaller than commercial. There's a scale, but for instance, the jobs that I've been working on recently, you'll have the client will go to a production company. Production company will run will run the job. Production will then look at the client, and the production or creative director will have meetings and discuss on what photographer they book and so forth. Then the photographers are normally repped by agencies. Agencies will then source assistants for the photography team. So say you have your first assistant, who is the right-hand man to the photographer. They're the most experienced when it comes to lighting and have been doing it the longest normally. So you have your first assistant, and then you have your second and third assistants are normally on a level. They shouldn't be a hierarchy there. They're just the other assistants. And then you have a digital technician, which is your person on the computer looking after files, tethering into Capture, Photoshop, and equipment. Yeah, maybe a bit of camera equipment management, and data backup. So yeah, you might have photographer, 3 assistants, and digitech in the photo team. Then yeah, you've got your creative directors, you've got your art directors, and then you've got the whole client-based team, like your stylists, your hair and makeup, your models, and all that side of things. So, and then production look after the production as a whole, just for any little bits and bobs and logistics that might be needed. So yeah, I mean, at the top of the food chain, you've obviously got your client, who are dealing with the photographer and the creative director, and the art director to, I guess, hit the brief and the target of the client and what they're after, and put forward ideas, and they're the creative team at the top, and then that's trickled down to the first assistant and us, in terms of majority lighting, and creating the style and the pictures that the client is going to be happy with and that they're going to choose. So that is just I guess a general overview of how jobs work here.
Okay, so it's basically client, and then the production, like the production company,
Yeah.
and then the agency, and then the photographer, and then the assistants and the digitech, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. So like, I mean, well, the agency is the photographer. They just represent the photographer. But
Yep.
yeah, under production looks at it from a whole. And then yeah, they creative director and all that, and photographer and stuff, working closely with the client. But the production, I guess, is the umbrella over. They just look after logistics and manage all the ins and outs of the production.
What are some examples of like big production houses in, say, London?
Oh, I mean, I, to be honest with you, I can't I mean, so some artist agencies do production in house. So, um, I've just worked with a photographer called Ellen Fedders. She's represented by We Folk. Now, We Folk sometimes will do production, so they might produce a job. So there, you will often find like big artist agencies that represent these photographers also have production, in-house production too. So there's that. I mean, there's some other more. There is a lot of boutique and smaller production companies in London that I've worked with and stuff. Like there's always a different one from my experience. But yeah, agencies, artist agencies also run a lot of productions too. So yeah, like the big ones, Art and Commerce, Art Partner, We Folk. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's just a whole different ball game to Perth. Like I think if you're a photographer in Perth, like you're basically doing
You do it
everything.
all. You are the
Uh,
production company.
yeah, which as creatives, I guess. Well, I personally I like to kind of come up with the idea and then sort of shoot it how I want to shoot it. But in London, if you're a photographer, firstly, it's coming under direction from the brand to the production house. Production house maybe has like a creative director who is consulting with the photographers. So it's not even the photographer's vision. Photographer probably, has their input and probably molds it a little bit,
Yeah,
but
definitely has a
ultimately,
massive definitely has still has a very big input, but I guess it just goes back to support, like we touched on before. You just have a lot more support around you. You've got a creative director over your shoulder, who is used to knowing exactly what a client wants and what looks good and what's going to sell, and what's going to get picked by the client. So you just have more support around you. So yeah, it's a good system. I mean, you need that support when you're working with big clients and big budgets and exclusive jobs, because there is more risk and there's and less room for mistake.
and what age did you leave London? Because you grew up in London, right?
Yeah. So I moved to Australia when I was quite young. I was 7 years old. So I grew up most of my childhood and stuff obviously in Australia, but it we go back every year to see family. So pretty much every year up until COVID, it would be our yearly holiday for at least a month. So, although I moved back to Australia, I was still very much in touch with the UK, and it still felt like home. So, moving back here hasn't been a big, crazy, crazy thing, which has been quite nice.
And did you have like support from family, I guess, when you moved back to London? Like it wasn't like maybe it was easy to find your feet and that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've got family and friends all over, so it's been really nice. Having that support. Um, yeah, I've been able to stay with them, spend time with family when I'm not in London for work or when I'm not traveling for work. So yeah, it's been super handy. I mean, I can't fault that. It's been really good.
And so obviously you got sort of those photography assisting connections through Ian and Eric. Is that right?
Yeah, so Ian and Eric put me in touch with a Digitech, originally from Perth, who lives in London. Put me in touch with him last year, which was very helpful, and he introduced me to a couple of people and got me on a couple of jobs last year. When I did that 4 months as a trial period, and I was traveling, and then yeah, I. Since moving here, I've touched base with those people that I met on set, whether it was other assistants, um, or photographers, and then on top of that, when I got here, I really knuckled down and did my research and sent out a lot of emails, made a lot of calls, and to be honest, not I did get some hit back from some of them, but again, it's all about who you know. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work with a photographer called Jonas Bresnan, who's originally from Perth. He's an incredible fashion and lifestyle beauty photographer who now lives in London, who I was introduced to from Ian and Eric. So I've been working with him. We recently have travelled together for a job, and then yeah, just through other mutual connections, I've actually, I mean, probably a bit of luck. I've managed to make a connection within We Folk agency. One of the producers there who I've become good friends with, and she's just small world. She happens to be from Duncraig in Perth, so we get along really well, and she's just helped me massively. So now she is putting me forward for as a lighting tech, as an assistant for multiple photographers that they represent through London, Paris, New York.
Yeah.
So
From Duncraig.
she lived in Duncraig.
What
So
was her name?
her name's Amy.
Amy. Okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so there's a bit of luck involved there with that, but that seems to be amazing. I mean, if you can get in with an artist agency that represent multiple big photographers, they're always calling on assistants and generally have a short list of assistants to call on for all the jobs that they produce or all the jobs that their photographers are on.
And how did you find it when you sort of first moved to London? Was assisting, was it sort of different to the assisting you've done previously in Perth? Was it, were you nervous, or um, was it, overwhelming, or you just kind of like, you sort of eased into it quite well?
Um, so assisting I've done in Perth, I was assisting Chris Gurney over the summer last year when I got back from London. Don't know if you've heard of him. He is, he's an incredible photographer. Like, respect him and his work a lot. He's now repped by B&A and is based on the East Coast and shooting some really great work. So I was fortunate enough to assist him for those few months, and that I was first on that. Now, bear in mind they were majority personal shoots, but yeah, I feel like in Perth you are a first. So even as an inexperienced assistant, you're just the first assistant. So it's just you. Whereas here, yeah, I mean, I was lucky. I eased into it well here. I mean, first job I got was assisting Jonas on a editorial for a magazine. now editorials don't have the budgets that commercials do, and it was a much smaller job. It was a bit run and gun around the streets of Hackney in northeast London, and I was his only assistant, so that was a nice little ease into it. But it was still nerve-wracking. I mean, it was for a big magazine, and the team flew in from Paris and Barcelona for it. So it's still it was very daunting and overwhelming, but it wasn't a big scale production. There was no production company involved or anything. That's only come recently, where I had this job this week, and I had an ad job the other week for the Euros, and it is overwhelming, because you're rocking up on set and there's 40 other people, and people all know their job. They're running around here, running around there. You don't know really who's who, but it's okay. Like as a second and a third assistant, it's great. I mean, you have that support of the first, and you have that support of the photographer, but you just need to, I guess, have faith in yourself a little bit, and just do what you're told at the end of the day. Just but it's great. You really need to put yourself in those uncomfortable positions, to grow and to get better. I feel like I've been working here for 2 months now, and I feel like I'm probably 10 times the assistant I was when I got here.
Oh, so you've only been over there 2 months?
2 months since I moved. Yeah.
Oh wow,
I had the summer back over here, back over in Oz. I did 4 months here last year, and then I had the summer, and then I moved here in the middle of March. So nearly 3 months. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned you've got some sort of work over there, so you might fly over there for a shoot and then come back.
I've been like, I mean, the fact that I've got on the jobs I have since I've been here in the short space of time, and I've already I had a job. I traveled to the Cannes Film Festival for a week to assist a photographer down there. So I mean, these opportunities, I feel like I've been very fortunate in such a short space of time, and maybe caught a little bit of luck. But the train seems to be moving at quite a fast pace at the moment, but I'm just kind of going with it. So it's great, enjoying it.
I guess you haven't flown back for a shoot yet, like since moving to London, because you've been
No,
there.
not to Australia. Like I said, focus on assisting at the moment. Quite happy putting the camera down commercially, because I feel like I have a lot to learn, and I want to get a lot better before I start trying to go for clients and shoot, build that career. Assisting's the target at the moment, but yes, I have some weddings booked back in Perth, over the November-December period, when I'll come back for Christmas and a bit of sunshine, and shoot some weddings while I'm there, and I assume I'll also be on the ecom stuff again in January if that happens with Creatures. So we'll see.
Cool. And I guess is it a paid assisting role, or like are you surviving in London? Are you living off like baked beans, or what is it?
No. Fortunately enough, the rates here for assisting are very, very good. I mean, commercially the rates are. I was a bit shocked actually, when I started getting a couple of emails through telling me this is the rate, or what's your rate, and hearing from other assistants. It's double. It's over double Perth and Sydney assisting rates, but then also in pounds, so it doubles again. So very fortunate there. Like, it's great. The are good, but obviously as well there's a scale. So editorial, there's never as much budget as commercial, so your rates are lower there, but you're a freelance, so there's some wiggle room. It kind of top end and lower end, but it is still, put it this way, it's still better than work pulling pints in a pub.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not. You don't have to give too much information, but as a photographer who maybe wants to do assisting, what sort of rate from maybe beginner, like just getting into it? Maybe obviously it starts off with interning, and then maybe leveling up to like a high level assistant. What sort of rate is sort of available over there?
I guess so. If you want to get into assisting, I'd assist a bit in Perth, and if you can, photographers that are doing good work, and build a little CV just so you have a little understanding, or at least intern and deep dive into lighting and learning lighting for a bit. But a lot of people over here, the way they get into being a lighting tech or a photo assistant, actually, majority of people I've spoke to, they go through production, so they're a production assistant. So they'll just be on set as an extra set of hands, running around doing all sorts of bits and bobs. And if you show you're proactive, you will get poached by photo teams. So that's kind of a stepping stone. I've luckily just been able to skip that with how I've done things in Perth, or who I've met. I'm not sure, but I'm kind of just jumped straight into that photo team now. And yeah, you're looking at, I guess, third assistant and second assistant should be the same. There's no, like I said before, no hierarchy. First assistant is paid more because they look after kit lists and a bit more management there. But I mean, starting beginner rates as an assistant, you may be looking at £300, £250 a day, which with the exchange rate is about 2 to 1 at the moment, so maybe $500 a day. And then, I mean, first, yeah, it can get up to £800 a day as a first assistant on commercial jobs, which is about $1,600 a day. But yeah, it all depends. All depends on budgets and everything. So there's a little bit of wiggle room.
Cool. And like, can you be represented as an assistant by an agency, or do you pretty much represent yourself, and it's up to you to kind of connect
Yeah,
the
I haven't
shoots?
heard of. I haven't heard of anyone being repped as an assistant. You are a freelancer unless you work as some of these big photographers, Campbell Addy, David Sims, um, yeah, Tom Craig. These big photographers will have a first assistant on salary, where they are exclusive to that photographer, and they have a team because they're so busy, and they need that support. So you can become an assistant, or work in a team of one photographer. I've heard that happens a bit here, but most of the time you're freelancing. So you're working for yourself. You're working for multiple different photographers. But my advice and the goal I would have, or yeah, the goal I've achieved is getting in with artist agencies that represent multiple photographers, like your art partners, Art and Commerce, CLM, WeFolk. The list goes on, because they manage, let's say, 20 to 30 different photographers. Now, they might not all be in London, but they travel. They always travel for work. Ellen just came from the US for this job this week. So if you can get on the short list of some of these agencies as a good assistant, they're the people that they call up when they have productions and when they have photographers needing teams for jobs. And also production companies, as same as artist agencies, important to get on those shortlists with production agencies as well, because sometimes production agencies look after assistants as well.
And you don't have to go to like networking events or like sort of network so much. Your networking sort of comes through assisting, I guess. So you don't have to like focus on that too much, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, meet other assistants who are here doing it, already in the thick of it, and see if you can get optioned on for a job. Now it's like anything, you know, one thing leads to another, and then another thing leads to it. Just it's kind of spreads out and spider webs. So you need to make that first connection, make a good impression, and yeah, build a few relationships. Remember names. Names are super important on set. Remembering names goes a long way because there is so many people. So yeah, just those little things, and yeah, if you get a first job, as I mean, you might have to. You can even offer to work for free. I've done that before when I first started. So offer your services for a day for free if they
In
like you.
London? You did that in London?
Yep, I've done 3 unpaid jobs here, spread across I did 2 last year when I was here, and then the first job I did here was a personal shoot for an assistant I met on set last year, who we got along really well. His name is also Harry, and he's been one of the top first assistants in London for 6 years, and now he's shooting himself. And I said he needed a second assistant for this personal shoot for his portfolio, but he didn't have the budget. And I just said, look, mate, I'd happily come and assist you. And he was super appreciative. And then he put me in touch with multiple other people. So yeah, it's those sorts of things that go a long way. And yeah, one thing leads to another. I mean, I am starting to get emails now from production companies and other people saying, hey, you available to assist this photographer? We got your details from this person. So
Awesome.
that's just, yeah, that's the nature of freelancing, and that's just how it works.
And for someone maybe like a creative who wants to move to London, what are kind of like maybe there's some admin stuff, or maybe if you're moving to London, you got to I don't know, sign up for health insurance, or maybe you have to you have to sign up as a sole trader if you're doing things like that.
Um, Look, mate, well, being English, having an English passport, I'm not sure if you do. Um, it was so easy for me. I just walked in with my British passport, like I'm a British citizen and like I live here. I don't. I've declared to Australia I'm not a tax resident there anymore. And yeah, I'm just here for. I'm in England for tax purposes. I'm a resident here for tax purposes. So I got put in touch with an accountant, which I had a phone call with, and he gave me some great advice. It is a lot more simple than you than you think, for me anyway, because I have that passport and that citizenship. So I haven't even registered for a sole trader yet. You can do that at any time. You can invoice, and then all you have to do is keep records and keep track of all that, which I do via spreadsheets and accounts. But I'll be registering in the next month or two and then you just get a number, and then that's just means that when it comes to the end of financial year, you can you just go to an accountant with your sole trader number for input, for declaring your tax, and then you just show all your records. But tax year here is different. I think it ends in April, or March or something like that. It's different to Perth in Australia. So yeah, and health, in terms of healthcare, it's NHS, so National Healthcare System. So it's all you don't need to pay for private health insurance or anything. It's all public funded and government funded. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. And about photography specifically, in your experience, maybe being in the industry over there, working with photographers, to be a successful photographer, is it more about your creative ability or is it more about your technical ability? Like, is it, a bit of both? How much?
Bit of both, yeah, definitely, bit of both, and again, all about who you know. So, um, you could be producing, yeah, it. You need to be producing great work. You need to have a body of work um, that is shows something slightly different, shows your style, and that is technically very good in terms of lighting and things like that. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, going to agencies when you are ready to get repped and take that next step, they will direct you and push you, um, tell you what to leave out of your portfolio, tell you what to do more of. So bloody bloody blah. So you kind of molding that body of work. And then, yeah, it's about who you know, having those connections already. If you have connections in big agencies, or some client contacts, maybe, or production contacts, or yeah, those connections will really help when you do make that transition. I hear anyway, I'm not there yet. And yeah, also just being good with people. Um, yeah, I can't stress that enough. You need to be good with people.
Okay. And how are you personally sort of entering in that scene in terms of your own work? Because I know you're assisting and you're building connections, but your own photography work, are you doing shoots on the side, or how are you sort of building that? Are you like looking at what other photographers are doing and then maybe learning from that?
Yeah, so I'm always looking at what other photographers are doing. I think you always need to as a photographer. It can be, there can be two sides to it. There can be um, a side where it gets you a bit disheartened because you go, wow, this work is so good. Why am I not producing work like that? But then you can also use it as motivation and drive to, yeah, push push you forward. So that's how I kind of view it. There's a bit of both there sometimes. Now, yeah, like I said, I've put the camera down. I'm assisting. I'm really happy doing what I'm doing at the moment and not having that responsibility at this stage. And I'm shooting personal projects and shooting again for the love of it. So I'm working on a couple of things. I'm working on a book behind in the background, and I'm also traveling to a little Tuscan village in Italy next month to shoot a a traditional festival thing that they have there once a year. So stay tuned. I will have that out in August or September.
Like a book on that, or like a
I
stay
won't.
tuned for
No, I don't think I'll
pictures?
shoot a book. I think I'll just shoot a series of images. Um, yeah, just a series of images, which would be quite cool. And then yeah, there's a couple little ideas there. But in terms of where I'm going with the fashion lifestyle stuff, I'm just learning at the moment. I'm just learning all multiple different lighting setups and technical side of photography because creatively I feel like I have the ideas, I have things up here that I want to shoot, and I know the style that I want to shoot, and I know the sorts of clients that I want to work for. So it's just growing that technical ability and learning that side of things a bit more, and then doing test shoots. So um, you need to. I mean, I'm a lighting assistant, so from what I hear, I've been given some good advice to build relationships with people at your level. So whether it's stylist assistants or production assistants or um, yeah, on the same, I guess, level as you and their stage of their journey. So I'm working with a stylist assistant on a test shoot with a model in East London next month, which she'll style for me, and we're just working on some pre-production at the moment. So that'll just be personal work and portfolio based stuff, fashion related, fashion and lifestyle related, which will be some portraiture and a few other little ideas that I have. So yeah, it's just making sure that you do keep your finger on the pulse and you do still stay creative and do test shoots with models. You might hit up modeling agencies to shoot new faces and just make sure that you keep, or I'm keeping shooting, whether it's personal work or test shoots for my portfolio and ideas, so I can build that body of work.
Are there any fashion brands that you might aspire to shoot for? Like, which fashion brands interest you and why in that industry?
I mean, I love just myself. I love the brand Venroy. They're an East Coast Australian based brand actually. They have a shop in Capri over here in Italy. I love. I mean, I wear a lot of their stuff, and I just love that style of fashion. So I'd love to shoot a campaign for someone like Venroy. Zara would be a really cool brand to shoot for. I mean, how they work with their photographers, and the way they approach their marketing and their photo shoots and content is really cool. So working for a brand like that too, and then obviously it would be a dream to shoot for a very exclusive and high end big brand one day, maybe like Burberry or something like that.
Do you go to fashion shows over there? Are you like in the fashion scene outside of assisting? Are you in that sort of?
I mean, I didn't go to London Fashion Week. I missed it, I think. I think I missed it just this year. But look, fashion, like I said before, there's a scale, right? There's your very quirky,
Creative.
alternative fashion, creative, which there is a lot of in London and Paris and Europe, which is a bit far outside of what I would wear and what I find interesting. And then there's your classy, like very very nice quality sort of side of fashion.
More sort of
So
simple.
simple, quality, classy. That sort of vibe. So there's a scale of fashion, but I'm into fashion. I value it and definitely enjoy it. Like I enjoy nice, and I enjoy that for sure. So it's nice. It's nice, like being involved in that a bit in London and seeing what people are doing as designers and for brands as well, and what brands like Zara or Venroy are designing and bringing out. I think I really like it.
Are you more interested in the really creative stuff, or the more simple,
More
clean?
simple, classy, and clean, I would say. Somewhere in between. Maybe I drift a little bit creative, but new. I don't. If you came into central London and you saw some of the fashion that is out there and Paris and stuff, it's quite quirky and it's out there and that's completely fine and I definitely respect that and it's cool. But it's I'm not quite there yet.
Do you want to shoot that sort of more quirky stuff, or are you?
Um, Not sure. I mean, maybe if I mean, it's interesting. It's fun, right? Like it's different. It's quirky, and it's you can really let your mind run a little bit in terms of ideas, and I mean, it could be cool, but there is a line that I find where it goes from being interesting, fashion, expressive, emotive to just a bit out there and a bit crazy for the sake of it, if that makes sense.
Hmm. And yeah, I guess you want to just shoot what you're sort of more interested in, which is well, I guess why does that simple, classy, clean style? Why do you resonate with that? Why do you want to sort of shoot that in fashion?
Um, I'm unsure really. I like the simplicity of it. I like a bit of nostalgic Italian culture, and the way of life, I guess, and that side
Yeah,
of things. And there's a area of fashion that is ties in with that feeling and that sort of stuff. You know, summer on the Med and stuff like that.
okay. So it's almost like a less is more, like a timeless sort of.
Timeless, exactly. Yeah, nostalgic, timeless. Yeah, I would say that's more my style.
And lifestyle wise, what's it like, you know, living in London? What's like your average day or week? What does that look like? Do you feel like you have a sort of healthy work life balance between like assisting and working, and then what do your days off sort of look like?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I yeah, you might work. I mean, this week I was on set Monday to Wednesday, um, doing admin, did some admin and run some errands yesterday that I couldn't do on those other days because I will say days on set here can be long. Um,
Is it in an
they can be
office or is it?
So I'm a member of Soho House, which is like a members group sort of thing. There's a few around London. They're in New York, Barcelona, they're all around the world. Um, and there's bars, restaurants, swimming pools, gyms, co-working space. So I joined up to that so that I can go and have a coffee and sit and do some work in a nice environment in the morning, and then go downstairs to the gym, and have a sauna, and then have a meeting with someone in the bar or restaurant that afternoon. Or so that might be a day off for me, or it might just be, yeah, enjoying the, like at the moment we're starting to get some really nice weather, so enjoying the sunshine in the park, catching up with friends. Obviously pub culture in London is big, so yeah, going to the pub with some mates is really nice. So yeah, it's a good balance. And I mean, having family here as well, I've got a lot of family out in the countryside and outside of the city, so I mean, I'm here at the moment. Traveled back out here last night to get out of the city for the weekend. So yeah, it's good. I've got a really good balance. Yeah.
Awesome, that's good to hear. And sort of lastly, what would be your top 5 tips for someone who wanted to get into photo assisting? What are like the most important things?
Oof, put me on the spot here, bro. Um, I would say, firstly, do your best to learn lighting, whether that's courses. I've done some courses online from other photographers. So learn the basics of lighting.
Any
If
specific photographers like?
I did the Lindsay Adler one, was quite cool. I've done Greg Williams, who's a London. He's based in London. That was quite cool. Um, who else have I done? I think there was one other. I can't remember. But there are a couple that. But there's plenty out there. So do do some online courses. Learn lighting, if you can, to the best of your ability. Like without obviously being on set. It will give you some background knowledge and will be helpful. So that would be first. Um, Number two will be to be prepared to work for free to start with. I mean, it does suck doing long days for free, but just think about what you're getting out of it. and the connections that are possible. 3 will be always just go above and beyond, try and be a good person on set, be helpful, be a yes man, but don't be afraid as well to have a know and understand when the right time to crack a joke, or that is really important. I've been booked already, rebooked for just apparently being funny at times, but then being a hard worker on set. So it's knowing that balance, and that will get you rebooked a lot. I've had production companies, I hear, have said before, do you know any good assistants, brackets, good person too? So that's important. 4 names, I would say. It's so simple, but like if you're on set, if you're just remember names, and make follow-ups from that. So whether you follow them on Instagram, find their numbers on the call sheet and send them a message and say, nice to meet you today, was lovely working with you, thank you for your guidance, or whatever. That's I think a nice little touch. And then 5 would just be, just work hard, and just be prepared to do long days. Like it's a bit of a slog, but it's all about relationships. It's all about work ethic, and who you are as a person will continue to get you rebooked, and that will get you working with big photographers in the long run. And ultimately, that's what you want. That's how you're going to learn from the best.
Amazing. Thank you.
Oh, and
Notebook.
notebook.
Okay.
Yeah, have a journal. Have a journal, and after each day you write your things you've learned, lighting diagrams, create your cheat sheet and your little diary. That'll be it'll be one of the most valuable things you have. So that's I've got mine locked away, and that will stay with me for ages.
So constantly learning, and just that sort of thing.
Yeah, after every day, write at least, if it's one thing, or 100 things that you learnt that day, and keep that with you.
Yeah, I suppose with that learning aspect, I did want to touch on, like, what is your vision for yourself? Are you constantly trying to, is it more about like just learning more about lighting? Because for me personally, I try and, I guess, push my creativity. Are you trying to push yourself creative wise, or more so like maybe what inspires you about other work that you're trying to get to that level? Is it because some photographers it's conceptual, some photographers it's creative, but for you maybe it's to do with lighting, or that less or
It
that
could
time?
be, man, it could be it could be so many different things. I feel like creatively it'll almost come a bit naturally, if you are a photographer already. So creatively, for me, I draw inspiration from what's around me, what I see, what I hear, what I feel, and seeing other photographers' work sparks other ideas. So that's where I get my creative thing from, and I definitely note that down, and concept plan things. So there's that. But in terms of learning, I mean, it could be seeing how a photographer does pre-production. You might get a deck through before a job, and you see how they've mapped out an idea, how they map things out. So you might learn, that might be something you learn to bring into your own jobs and your shoots. So pre-production planning. Post-production, you might see how a photographer grades something or tweaks something on the DigiStation on a job, and what they apply to give a certain look, and how they retouch, or how they do a little thing, or file management, how they manage all their files and keep things organized, data management. And then there is obviously the lighting side of things, which is a massive ballpark of stuff you can learn. So endless notes on that, lighting diagrams, what this light does, what this light does, what this light does. And yeah, all of that side of things. Then obviously you got camera things, how people are shooting in camera, what settings they're using, why they're using them, if they're killing all the ambient light in studio, if they're seeing a little bit for a certain purpose. So, and then you've obviously also got how they deal with clients, how they're communicating with clients, how they're problem solving, how they're managing people and putting out spot fires. So yeah, mate, there's just always observe, always remember and keep a list of notes and never stop learning.
Yeah, I think just from hearing that and maybe some other podcasts, my perception of photography has changed. Like, it's not, you can't just be a photographer who takes, like, quote unquote good photos. It's so many things come into it. Like, it's dealing with clients, it's like time management, it's dealing with people, understanding lighting, the tech side, editing. So it's like, it's all these things. So as you're saying, it's like so much to learn. So that's,
Yeah,
that curiosity to learn is, and that drive to learn is really important.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. Like, yeah, very insightful, and I think the listeners will find that very insightful. So I appreciate you coming on.
More than welcome, mate. Nice to meet you, and yeah, good to chat.
Where can people sort of find your work or reach out to you? Are you open for like people to message you, maybe ask you things, or
Yeah, of
reach out
course.
maybe?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Always happy to help. Obviously, we were all there once, right? So, and there's people way, way ahead of me. So, yeah, more than happy to answer questions and help if I can. My Instagram is Lewis French Photo. Now, obviously, as I am assisting and working on things in the background, I'm not super active in posting on there. There's maybe secrecy around that at the moment, and just ready to well, I am shooting in the background and producing some stuff that I will start to show at some stage. But yeah, for now it's just on there. So contact me on Lewis French Photo. My email address is info@lewisfrench.com, and my website is lewisfrench.com.
Awesome. Thanks again, man. Peace.